Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Weekend Winners in association with Bet Victor, your weekly go-to show to find you those big Saturday winners. And hopefully we're going to get some top-class action this Saturday. We're going to be previewing it as if the weather is playing ball with us, but of course all eyes are going to be on Newbury and Newcastle to know exactly if we're going to get those meetings to go ahead. So Dec and Sam, I mean, we really are yet again stuck between a bit of a rock and a hard place. Like, I feel like we've been on this show looking more at our weather app as we have at our racing apps on the build up to these shows.
My cries for Lucy Verasamy still haven't been answered, but we need her on here. Yeah, look, it's a shame. Look, we'll be positive. We'll crack on and preview everything like the races are going ahead. We're in the lap of Mother Nature and she's a very strong lady, so there's not much we can do.
No, exactly. We've been saying that the whole way through the summer, into the autumn, into the winter as well, Sam. But we've had the good results last week. Dec's nap went in. You had Blue King Daru, of course. So we're in good form. Yeah,
I should have taken my own advice, but I put that Johnny De La Haye stat up and actually followed it for most of that card at Ascot. But it was good racing there. Hopefully Ireland can save us. I'm looking forward to touching on that a little bit later on. We had some good sponsored action over at Thurles in the week and saw yet another nice Willie Mullins novice chaser go in. And yeah, looking forward to touching on all the action.
Yeah, Thurles was really good in the week, wasn't it? And then hopefully we'll get plenty more from Fairyhouse this weekend as well. And stay tuned for that because we will be talking about that towards kind of the end of the show as well. But before we get stuck into the action, a reminder as ever to please do gamble responsibly. Our tips are not guaranteed to win, but we will still do our best to point you in the right direction all the same. Right, on with the racing because we begin at Newbury with the Jerry Fielder. Now, this is an intermediate Premier handicap hurdle for 4-year-olds and over 2 miles at 2:15. Always a strong race with an eye on the future and a race that Nicky Henderson has won 3 of the last 4 renewals. So, Dec, can Nicky win another with the current favourite under control?
Well, yeah, look, I think as the market suggests there, he's got another strong hand with this filly. I would say, though, she can be a little bit gassy. She can be a little bit free at times. And, you know, first time out, you know, could she be a little bit fresh? And obviously, I'm sure she'll come forward for the run like most of them do. So, look, I'm going to take her on. I think and one thing that will help her in terms of being a little bit fresh and gassy, there looks to be a lot of pace on here. I think the best horse is definitely going to win this race. But I just thought at the prices, I'm keen on Hansard. I think I'm going to have a decent each way bet on him. He's a good horse. I think, like, I just go back to that form last season at Aintree behind In the Pocket in the top novices hurdle. You know, that's grade 1 form. It looks very solid novice form. Strong Leader was in there. Lucia was in there. But there was a big drop in pace that day going to 3 out and he was held up well off the pace. But if you go back and stop the tape on the run to the last, he came there travelling, you know, maybe travelling just as well as In the Pocket. But I think maybe the combination of maybe using too much petrol from a poor position to get into a good spot and maybe still being a little bit weak and unfurnished took its toll. Like, if he reproduces that level of form, he's going to go very, very close here. He's had a run this season, ran well in the elite hurdle, looked good on good terms with himself there. Visually, it was a nice comeback. He jumped and travelled for fun. Didn't jump as well over the last 2, which suggested to me maybe he was getting a little bit tired and maybe that Gary Moore left a little bit to work on. I hope that's the case because Gary's got a good record in this race with lots of horses hitting the frame. So if this has been the aim, with Sean Houlihan taking another £3 off his back, I think he's a cracking each way bet.
Oh, Niall. You're getting
Niall, sorry.
your Houlihan's confused.
I think I did that last week as well. I'll get there eventually.
No, yeah, Niall taking the ride then on Hansard. And a nice price to go with it as well then. So Dec's taking on the head of the market. Sam, where were you looking?
Completely opposite way round. I like the 2 at the front of the betting. Brentford Hope, I think Harry Devon's done a great job with him so far. And he was very impressive when I saw him win at Newbury the last day. But I can't get away from Under Control. That form line just looks so good, doesn't it, with Impaire Et Passe, who's obviously got in and won at the big race at Cheltenham last month. And Nicky Henderson's race record, you've alluded to it. You know, you go back through the names, the likes of Floressa, First Street, Epiton. You know, they're very good horses that have come here with similar profiles. And there's just a lot to like, isn't there? And I know it's a little bit of lazy analysis that Nicky does well at this meeting, but it is a target I'm not too concerned about the fact it's first time out. That doesn't worry me, just because you know he's probably taken those horses around Newbury a couple of times already this season, and you know they've had the opportunity to get plenty of time in. Ground-wise as well, there's lots of versatility, so as long as the meeting's on, that's my biggest worry when it comes to the ground. Don't need to worry about whether it gets a little bit quicker side of good or whether it ends up being a bit soft. So yeah, I'll leave a little bit of meat on the bone, because I've got a feeling, Kate, you're with me on the favourite here.
I might just be, yeah, I think she's going to take the world of beating here. Now, you just mentioned that Nikki Henderson won this with Epatante a few years ago. Do you know the other bit of synergy, bar the fact that they're wearing the same colours here Under Control and Epatante? Do you know the other bit of
they both bombed out in the Mayor's Novice Hurdle.
That's also the case. That is also true. But they both were rated 137 going into this race. Epatante won it off of, and Epatante, hindsight, was the best bet of the season, wasn't she, when she won this race off of that mark? And I feel that Under Control is going to be very similar here. And again, you just touched upon that really strong form line, like you say, from Sandown last season in the Championship Novices final handicap hurdle. Iberico Lord, who was second, as you've just said there, he fairly dotted up in the Great Wood. Then we had Arcube, who was third. He won convincingly at Sandown the other week. Then we had General Madrano, who was fourth. He won his next two over fences. Even Tapley, who was sixth, he won a Kempton handicap hurdle well the other week. So that looks like one of the strongest pieces of form from last season. So I'm really hoping also that Under Control can justify her pretty short price at the head of the market. So we are both with Under Control.
I'm hoping Hansard will have Under Control.
Nicely done. Right, they are our selections then for the Jerry Fielden. But before we move on to our next race, if you're enjoying the show, and we really hope that you are, do remember to subscribe to the At The Races YouTube channel, and also hit the bell notification so you never miss an episode. Right, on to our next, because this is one of the, well, it is the big betting race of the weekend. Of course, the Coral Gold Cup Premier Handicap Chase for 4-year-olds and over 3 mile 2 at 250 at Newbury again, of course, where it is 6-1 the field, headed by Complete Unknown. So Sam, the Coral Gold Cup floor is yours.
Yeah, this is a really good renewal. Look, nice load of depth to it, various candidates. I respect Complete Unknown at the head of the betting. The one I couldn't have towards the front of the market, Marla Mission for me was a really interesting horse to be in there at nearly favourite. I understand why people might be drawn to his profile, but the trainer's not had a winner for over 50 days. He's had plenty of decent ones beaten as well. I don't like to crab trainers when they look out of form. You don't know what's going on necessarily in the yard, but I don't think any of his races he's had more than 8 rivals in. I just think for a race like this, all well and good having an unexposed profile, but I like to have something that's just a little bit battle-hardened. And Irish Raiders, they've got a reasonable record in the race. You go back to 2017, Total Recall for Willie Mullins, won it. I'm a bit surprised we don't see more targeting this race, if I'm honest with you, because it's such a good pot. My pin came down on Gavin Cromwell's Stumptown. I'm really interested by this horse. 2 runs this season, reappeared at Galway. That looked like it was just a bit of a prep run. Was, I thought, disappointing in the Kerry National, where I watched the replay a few times and the jumping did just go to pot a little bit. Gavin's got a great strike rate when he brings horses to the UK, hits around 25% this season at the moment. We all know he's a very, very good trainer over both codes, having won at Royal Ascot as well. But I'm really curious about this horse. I think the mark looks fair. That second in the Kinmure, he's only, what, £5 higher than that? And I still think there's more to come. I'm assuming this has been a long-term target as well since that Kerry National, and I'm quite excited to see how he gets on. And we've seen a bit of money as well, I should add.
Yeah, and an Irish Raider then in a British handicap. Well, yeah, as you say, that this race hasn't been overly targeted by a few Irish trainers in recent renewals, but when they have done, it's been quite notable. So, Stumptown then for Sam Deck.
Yeah, it's a seriously competitive race, isn't it? I think I had a short list of 5. And I think the 5 were the first 5 of the 6 in the betting, so it was a tough one to kind of. Stumptown was on the list as well, but I came down on Complete Unknown. I just, I think the combination of his form and his profile is exactly what you want for this type of race. He's a second season chaser. He is bringing kind of Grade 1 novice form from Aintree last season behind Jerry Colum into the race, and that form looks quite a lot stronger now, doesn't it? With Jerry Colum, looks like a leading Gold Cup candidate. Also that day, that chase course the same day was the day Pictori won his race, and the time and kind of sectional combo of what Jerry Colomb did I thought was very impressive, considering Pictori was running over, I think it was like half a mile shorter. So I thought Complete Unknown would go really well for a top team. He's already had a run this season, ran at Newton Abbot, and he did have a little bit of an issue of maybe kind of adjusting and jumping left in some parts, but he jumped pretty straight at Newton Abbot, which was good. The maybe potential worry is Paul Nicholls is a little bit worried about kind of ground getting too quick for him. I'm not quite sure why. He's a very, very good mover. He clearly handles heavy ground, but I don't think the ground will beat him, unless maybe Paul thinks he's a proper stayer and a national type kind of candidate. But I thought Complete Unknown, for a top and informed team, had an awful lot going for him.
Yeah, very much an informed team as per, and that old school angle for this race of a second season novice chaser as well. Hence why I was looking at him. I had one eye on Complete Unknown, but I also really like Stolen Silver, who of course is the bigger price then of 14 to 1. So naturally I'm going to be favouring him anyway. Now, I loved his win from last time out, and yes, we know that Stolen Silver, he's a horse with a decent record when fresh, but I'm hoping that people are going to attribute his success down to that on that seasonal debut, and not the fact that he stepped up to the 3 miles and improved for that for the first time in his career, which means that he's unexposed as a stayer, winning that Chepstow handicap chase off of a marker 150 in what was a competitive field of runners as well. So I'm hoping he'll be ridden prominently, he'll jump soundly, and see this trip out in really good style as well. He's been given a £7 rise. It's one of the top weights in here, but he's got that battle-hardened profile from a 2.5 mile handicap chases that he was facing previously, rather than a few of these, including some of the second season novice chasers, may not have that battle-hardened, that side then to them. So Stolen Silver then for me.
Complete Unknown for me.
And Sam?
Sometime for me.
Now, that is the Saturday action done, because we're going to look ahead to Fairyhouse on Sunday. Of course, Fairyhouse has got a cracking meeting coming up, and on Sunday they have 3 Grade 1 races in a row. So we thought we would take an early look, despite not having declarations at this moment in time as we're recording. So, lads, I'm going to kickstart with the first of those Grade 1s. This is the Royal Bond Novice Hurdle, over 2 miles at 125. A race, of course, won last year by the Supreme Novices winner, Marine National. So, Dec, Encanto Bruno is expected to run here. Do we expect him or any of these runners to truly work up to being top class?
It's still quite early in the season, I think, for me, isn't it? I think, if I'm being kind of brutally honest, a little bit disappointing, the 3 Grade 1s at Fairyhouse and what we've seen. We don't have decks, but the one that kind of interested me most, just because I was really impressed with what he did on the clock last time out, was actually Slade Steele of Henry de Bromheads. He ran at Naas. I think of all the races on the hurdles track that day, he was quite comfortably the best performer on the clock. Whether I didn't think at the time he was immediately top class, so we'll have to see if he's running. Encanto Bruno's dropping in trip as well, which is never ideal, I think, especially around a track like Fairyhouse, which can be a test of speed. So it'll be interesting to see where we go. But I think on what we've seen so far, I doubt there'll be another Marine Nationale in there. But the decks will tell us more.
Yeah, definitely so. I mean, we were talking about this beforehand, Sam, weren't we? And then we were sort of saying about Encanto Bruno. Will the ground suit him? He has very much looked like a good ground performer so far. So if there's kind of a stickiness around, then...
Yeah, listen, I'll be definitely watching it. And I think for all we're a bit like, oh, is it the strongest renewal? Could probably have said that a little bit about last year's, and look what happened. The one I'm quite interested in, I won't be having a bet in the race, but Facile Mode I saw win at Punchestown in a race we sponsored. The short price favourite pulled out, and then he went and absolutely won by distance for Thomas Mullins. And I thought it was a taking performance, a couple of errors in there I need to brush up on, but I did think if he took his chance, he might be interesting as a bit of a play. And I could see the pace angle of the race, looking at what could be declared. I thought he could be one to go forward and make it a bit of a test. So I'll be watching, but like I say, no bet for me.
Yeah, that's the Royal Bond Novice Hurdle then. Right, for next Grade 1 up next is the Drinmore Novice Chase over 2 mile 4 at 2 o'clock. Now, let's be clear about it. He was, of course, mightily impressive at Cork last time out. 2 from 2 over fences. So, Sam, is he the right favourite currently? And sort of where are we expecting him to go? Turner's route in time?
Oh, I'll be honest, Kate, my record with guessing where these novice chases end up is not too strong. For me, let's be clear about it. I think he'd he is, going to be a 3-mile chaser in time in terms of where he is now. I think he's absolutely fine at this trip. I was very taken with him, and I clearly am a bit of a Gavin Cromwell fanboy this week because he'd be my back bet in the race. I know he was our anti-post favourite for it, but just the way he was quite easily winning last time out certainly caught my eye. That was at Cork over the trip, and if it does get a little bit heavier, it's not going to be an issue. Starting out at Gowran, beating Largy Debut, who I still think is a fair yardstick to go and beat, and there's depth to it. I do think it's a good little renewal. Obviously, Gordon's got potentially found a 50 in there. Sharjah's done nothing too wrong, I suppose, when you look at his record since going chasing, but he's a little bit older. I just really like the favourite. It's a boring angle, but again, it's another great race to watch in terms of future clues.
I mean, Sharjah's a relative whippersnapper in comparison to Faheen going chasing a few years ago,
Absolutely,
Dec.
yeah. And to be fair to him, it looks like he's taken to chasing quite well. And, we shouldn't forget, at the end of last season, he finished second to Constitution Hill in the Aintree Hurdle in a race that was had a real tactical nature to it, and he was in the worst position tactically. So I thought to get so close to Constitution Hill was a massive run, although then he didn't kind of replicate the form at Punchestown after. Let's be clear about it. I know Simon Rowlands does a lot of work for us on attheraces.com. He was very impressed with this guy on the clock last time when he won at Cork, and I'm not sure if he's going to run because Gordon's got a good few in here, but it was really nice to see American Mike bounce back last time. Coming into last season, he probably would have been maybe Gordon Elliott's leading hope in the novice hurdle division, and for whatever reason he just lost his way. Maybe he just had a little bit of an issue because he was jumping right in some of his hurdle races. But last time out when he won going left-handed, he took the fences really well, looked in good terms with himself. So I'm not sure if he's going to run, but it was just nice to see American Mike kind of come back to the promise that he suggested he could show in the bumper sphere.
That seemed like it meant so much to connections as well. And I remember a couple of years ago, I saw American Mike in person at Cheltenham. He was an absolute frame of a horse. There was no strength to him whatsoever. And I remember, this is going to sound like wonderful after timing, but I remember saying at the time, that horse is not going to be seen to best effect for a few years till he finally starts to build up that muscle mass.
Isn't that what we're all guilty of sometimes? People bang on about a big price tag and they expect the world early on. And, you have to be patient. You two would know better than me, having sat on them. Horses take time. They all fill out differently as they grow, as they develop. And, potentially maybe we're all just too quick to put the boot in, and we need to be a bit more patient.
Yeah, it's the art of training.
All my experience of riding in the Clonmel Donkey Derby, I'm
unbeaten in the race.
Yeah, unbeaten, yeah. Beat Peter Atchison or Rachel Blackmore in a tight finish there about 7 or 8 years ago, so...
More than I've got.
Yeah.
No, it is true though, isn't it? The fact that, like you say, we have so much expectation over these horses so often at a very young age, but it is the trainer's job then to know that horse and exactly when they're going to peak. So yeah, hopefully we'll get to see a good showing from American Mike. Now the last race we want to focus in on, the Hatton's Grace Hurdle over 2 mile 4 at 2:35. Now of course Impaire Et Passe is a very short price favourite for this. Starting out over the intermediate trip, Dec, are you expecting him to win this and then go champion hurdle route, or?
Oh, I think he's going to go champion hurdle route, isn't he? Yeah. There was a stage there, if you don't have to go back too long ago, that the Ballymore was actually a very good kind of, not a prep race for the champion hurdle, but there were lots of horses, like Faheen, I think Isterbrack as well, was he in there? Maybe Hardy Eustace as well. You're going back a little bit away now, and he's going to take a similar route. Well, it's going to be really interesting to see him back. He's a bit funny. I was looking back at his replay of Cheltenham last night. He's a funny horse. He kind of seems to run down his hurdles to the right, but he actually jumps them straight. So maybe kind of going right-handed at Fairyhouse is a nice starting point for him. The trip should obviously be no issue. But remember the buzz about him going into Cheltenham last year. It was like, there was so much hype about him, and he really did kind of come to fruition there. He was brilliant in the Ballymore. I loved how he hit the line. He hit the line like a proper horse. So really excited to see him back. I would say though, Tia Hupu I think is going to not reoppose. He's going to try and defend his crown. He's definitely going to be the best horse Impaire Et Passe has taken on. So it'll be interesting to see how he stands up to him. So yeah, really excited to see how he goes and how Willie's going to juggle this whole champion hurdle ship between him and Stateman and a couple of others there.
Yeah. Yeah, Stateman's so impressive then last week, and now, of course, Impaire Et Passe. But so we've got horses. This is an intermediate trip, probably going to go either way going forwards, 2 miles and then potential stay as hurdle horses. So what are you expecting to see?
Declan remembers the hype about Impaire Et Passe. I remember the drift. Do you remember? He went off 5-2 at Cheltenham, which just seems baffling.
Wasn't that because we had that mental gamble on the Nichols horse?
Yeah, it was. But it just shows you that sometimes you're better to wait for the day because it's great value. But where he ends up this season, Kate, I don't know. Maybe Connections might not think it's all about Cheltenham and go and take on Constitution Hill fresh at Aintree over 2 mile 4. I don't know. There's an option, isn't it? When you think Willie Mullins has such a depth of talent. I know people will say, "Oh, do I want to be backing him at a short price?" I think there was a few questions around Willie Mullins having a few odds on shots beat, and then he goes and has a 5-timer at Thurles, including a few short ones. So, I wouldn't worry about that. His record fresh is fantastic as well. All 3 starts, first time up, he's won. If you go back in time, I'm not particularly worried. I think he'll go well here. I think Dec's right about the horse that he's earmarked as the one to put it up to him. Which trip he ends up over, really interesting question. Don't know. I'm well on the fence with this one.
It would be really nice if Willie ran either Stateman or this guy against Constitutional at Kempton. You know, it's easy for us to sit here and place other people's horses, but, you know, I don't think Constitution Hill's going to take on much that day either, is he? So it'll be very interesting to see what way the Willie Mullins bingo plays out.
Yeah, massively so. Well, I mean, I've already been playing Warren Greatrex's racing manager, so who are we then to say about Willie Mullins is of his top superstar Grade 1 performers going forwards? But thank you for your thoughts on that, because loads of really interesting races then at Fairyhouse on Sunday with those Grade 1s. Hopefully you enjoyed that, and again, do let us know your own bets for Fairyhouse in the comment section below as we head over to the Skypad to give you our best bets for the weekend. Now it's time to put our money where our mouths are, our best bets for the weekend. Dec, take it away.
Yes, we've already covered the nap who's going to run in the Jerry Field and hopefully at Newbury on Saturday, and that is going to be Hansard for the Gary Moore team. But with a slight twist, I want to bet him in the betting without market of the Nicky Henderson mare, who's going to take a hell of a lot of beating, isn't she? The next best, we're also going to go to Newbury, and that's going to be Citations. Really interesting profile, this guy. Last season needed his first run. He won second time out and then he won third time out, but with each run he got better and better. This season it's pretty similar. Needed his run first time out, was very good winning at Sandown last time out, and I'm hoping he can take another step forward here. He does take on 2 nice horses in terms of Master Chewy and Real Stone, but Real Stone is backing up relatively quickly, having run last week, and Master Chewy could just find the tempo of this race on much quicker ground, having run on soft and heavy ground the last time, just maybe catching this jumping out a little bit. Looks like a horse who overall jumps well to me, but getting in tight has been a little bit of an issue for him. And then the long shot, we haven't got decks or prices for this yet, so we'll have to see what price it is. But I wanted to give a shout to an Irish race this week, just in case all the racing is off here in the UK. Cossack Shack has really taken well to hurdles for me this season. Loved his run last time out again at Down Royal. Again, I just thought he jumped very well, is very professional. Hoping that they don't get too much rain there at Fairyhouse. There's not a lot forecast. He's a son of Churchill, but you know, he's a horse the type of horse that Joseph O'Brien does very well with, and I'm hoping he will be underrated in the market.
But Churchill's going over obstacles. It's something we love to see. So good bets then for Dec on Saturday, hopefully so. Anyway, Sam, your own best bets?
Yeah, I need to get down to Newbury with the hairdryer because I'm all in on Newbury being on Saturday. So fingers crossed. We'll kick off with the Nap, Kate, which comes as a really interesting horse. This horse won, I think, the best named handicap of the season last time out because it was the Watch Weekend winners with Bet Victor novice handicap. Inch House, though, absolutely blew him away. He's a little bit quirky, just the way he carries his head, but he's gone up significantly for that. But I think there's more to come from John Joe O'Neill's horse. I think he's a really, really nice type, and I don't think the mark of 130 is going to stop him. Very lightly raced, and excited to see how he gets on. The 140, Jet Powered, is Nicky Henderson absolutely flying right now, and I think Jet Powered can help propel that form. All right, that's enough dreadful puns. But I really like this horse. The way he won at Newbury last season on his first start was pretty impressive. Then he was really flopped and disappointed behind Jupiter de G in that very strange race at Newbury, where Jupiter de G looked like he was going to be the next big thing. Given time since then, you look back, Nicky Henderson's won, I think, 2 of the last sort of 4 renewals of this race, and I'm fairly sure Jet Powered is going to be an interesting contender around 7-2. Then finally, my long shot Eldorado, Alan, I've gone back into the big Gold Cup handicap chase. And yeah, I just think this horse, obviously, he's not won since the Denman chase, and you've got to go back on the clock a while for that. But I think his mark's workable. I thought his reappearance was good. And I just think maybe, just maybe, he's worth a squeak at a big price.
No pun for the Eldorado Alan name. I'm quite disappointed in that, but you've nailed it with the other puns, though. And I don't think I have any puns in my selections, to be honest with you, because I'm going to be pretty unoriginal with my nap. Under Control, then, for all of the aforementioned reasons. Inverjerry Fielden, she has a perfect profile for this race. Nikki Henderson has won 3 of the last 4 renewals. And in the same colours as Epatante, who was, as I said earlier, probably one of the best bets of the season, then running off the same mark as her, have won at 3-7. So I'm hoping that this will be history repeating itself for Under Control. My next best bet, Stolen Silver at 14-1 in the Coral Gold Cup handicap chase, because he remains unexposed as a stayer. The hustle and bustle of the race won't faze him. His running style should suit. And I like that as he's got older, he's become more settled. So I don't think his win last time out was just a result of his decent record when fresh. And hopefully he can see this trip out in good style. And now a race that we haven't actually touched upon yet, the 140 at Newbury, a 0-150, 2.5 mile handicap hurdle. I found it a tricky race, but I've gone with Any Harm in Asking. I was between him and Get a Tonic in here, but Any Harm in Asking is a much bigger price, who appeared to be the choice anyway of John Joe O'Neill, but was soaring glory. Perhaps going to go to Doncaster. It seemed that Any Harm in Asking, this is going to be his likely target for him. A horse that obviously had his hold-ups last season, but he's run a really solid race on his reappearance start when finishing second to Nemean Lion. And the Greatwood last time out, I thought he ran okay in that off of the £4 rise. So hopefully then with the pound back in his favour, Any Harm in Asking can prove up to the task. Right, that is everything from us on this week's show. Big thank you to Dec and Sam for all of their hard work as per usual. A big thank you to you at home for watching. Remember, you can watch all of Newcastle's action live on Sky Sports Racing, and we'll be back at the same time next week to preview the Tingle Creek and the Beecher Chase.